Hello everyone, I'm Havoc and this is Factorio Space Exploration Plus. And we are back at it today. This has been a little bit since the last time that I recorded, so I'm trying to get caught back up with where we left off. Last time we were on the other planet and we had a crisis going on back here on Novice, and that was right over here at this section of the wall. They were destroyed all of this, all the way down to this radar down here. They had wrecked every bit of this, and they were just flowing in and eating things. So I've made a few changes. What I did is I water filled this just a little bit to prevent them from being able to come diagonally down at this wall section. And I'm not completely blocking myself off where they can't get to me with water fill kind of thing. I'm only changing this little section here so that they're forced to come at a section of the wall where their coverage is better. I feel like it'd probably be kind of cheaty if you just, I could go around my entire base with water, with water fill, and just make a barrier that's not passable for the bugs, and then boom, I'm done. But I'm not going to do that. I do enjoy having the defenses here. Dealing with the bugs is part of the game, so I don't want to just get rid of them or make it impossible for them to get to me. So that we worked on. Now, in order to fix this area, I had to do an awful lot of bombarding them with artillery, atomic artillery, and we kind of ran out. We ran out of enriched uranium. So I've been busy building this. This is my all things uranium area. And I've took extra special care to also make it visually appealing while I've been working on things. I started out with trying to figure out how to really do a good job with the Kovarex enrichment. So I will drop down one of these here and go to Kovarex enrichment. Now, it's really weird because you get a lot of stuff back from the recipe and you have to recycle and reuse them, and I spent so much time working on this setup and doing crazy stuff with logic circuits, buffer chest, and all kinds of things that I found online, and I didn't like them. I felt like it was not the best way to do it. Well, best way for me, I should say. I'm sure it's probably to be realistic with the circuits and everything, it's probably the most efficient way to do it. I just didn't like the way it looked. I felt like I could do a better visual representation, and so I developed this little setup, and it all starts right down here in this bottom corner, and I'll kind of go over it with you right here. And so this one is the first one that I filled up with the uranium-235. And what it does is there's a breakaway line that side loads the enriched uranium and the depleted uranium, where we have access to them with these inserters here, which they're on the back side of the belt, right? So the belt comes from left and goes to the right on purpose. And what that means is when this machine finishes, this filter inserter takes the enriched uranium out and puts it on the far side of the belt. And when you don't have all of this rich uranium on the inside of the belt, when you first start, it's unloading and immediately loading right back into itself. And it's a cycle until this one builds up enough where it starts overflowing into this machine and it's getting what it needs. And then what happens is slowly over time, and when I say slowly, I mean it took me hours. I didn't realize that I had ran completely out of uranium-235 and I had to mine a bunch I didn't have enough to do the enrichment process, and I had to start mining again and get the little small percent chance you get from the mining in order to get enough and get this going again. And it took hours for it to finally work its way down. And the way this works, like I said, the enriched uranium is side-loaded to the inside of this belt, and that goes all the way down the line and then stops. You'll see it's not moving right now, and that's on purpose. I want that side there so that at any given time, these can be running. They can take off the inside of the belt and fill themselves up. But then their output, what they are putting out onto the far side of the belt, moves down and is side loaded onto this underground so it can go on to the output line. Same thing happens up here with our depleted uranium. It comes to the inside of the belt, runs down the belt line until you get down to here where only the output side from the machines is side loaded onto undergrounds and continues down the line. And this means that we can keep what they need to run on the inside of the belt so the machines can keep running and their outputs never back up. The outputs always move on and go where they need to go. And where they go is down here to these output belts. And these flow down. They're balanced here because I have a lot of enriched uranium output. And they come around, and then you'll notice here that each one of these prioritizes moving the uranium to where it's fed back into the process until you get down to the end and very small amounts make it out. Because each one of these, let's see, what's this? Control N. Each one of these is producing 24.147 enriched uranium per second, but it is using 23.467. So that's, you're getting 0.7 roughly in there. Not even a full enriched uranium per second out of this line. But I have multiple of them, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. So if we do the math on all of these, you'll see the 193 out, and we're using 187.7 in. So we're getting, what is that? Just under 5.5 per second. 5.5 enriched uranium comes out of this monster of a build every second. And it doesn't sound like a lot. I mean, anybody that's done Kovarex enrichment is probably going, wow, that's a pretty decent amount. It took me forever to work on this and get it down to that. But just over 5 a second output builds up over time, right? And you see I've got 45,000, 45,000, 45,000, and 44,000. And that's probably a good indicator for you about how long I've had this operating at full speed. It's, like I said, it's been a little while since the last time that I recorded. I've been quite busy in my personal life and haven't been able to sit down and record, but I could be playing. So I've been doing a lot of that and working on things so we can keep making progress. I did a lot of aesthetic designs. I saw this online, looked really neat. They had it yellow here where I have green, but I like the green better. And I've added water fill in to give it a good look aesthetically. And then this looks really good on the map. You can probably tell if you look up here at the mini map, it gives you the radiation symbol. And then over here, this is our processing of uranium in. And each one of these lines, if I come here and do this, it takes exactly 45 uranium in raw, which is a blue belt's worth. Now you'll notice there's a backup, and that's because there's a backup on the output. And the reason for that is I have the priority input from our recycled line, what's already been used. Each time one of these completes a process, it puts a little bit of depleted uranium, 2 pieces of depleted uranium back on the belt, and that has to go somewhere and go back in to be fed so that our machines don't back up and they continuously run. And so what that causes is down here, this backs up because it says, oh, well, we're prioritizing that line in. It'll use all that first, and whatever's left over comes from these lines. But that's fine. It's processing, and this gives us what we need. And you'll notice at each line, I have a split off, so the enriched uranium can get moved over to this far line, and it is the priority input as well. So every now and then when we get that little extra one, it adds to our numbers of our processing up there. And this right now, I'm just mining what we had over here. You know, we had these 2 big 15 and 16 million deposits. I've already used 3 million out of this one. These aren't even running anymore. But I am mining all of this out, and then I'm going to build a train yard here that will unload the uranium ore from wherever I'm mining it and deposit it right over here. And it doesn't have to be big, right? Because I only have processing for 4 blue belts, so I can only, I can use just one train and one unloader and probably a small stacker, so there's a few trains waiting and ready for when it unloads. So I don't have to have a massive amount of space here once this is gone for the trains. But I also have been using labeling on our map a lot better. Uranium processing for our raw uranium, Kovarex enrichment for this area, and then uranium cell recycling is what happens right down here. And I have set this up to be able to handle a lot. If we come here and I just grab that, it can handle 1 per second of the spent uranium cells. So that's a lot of processing right there. No modules needed, just a good number of the machines running. And I did all of this not just because we ran out of our atomic warheads, which obviously that's a good portion of it, but also because I'm running into power issues. When I start running many of our machines, we have built a lot of builds that are using modules and bigger machines with beacons, and it's starting to get expensive, especially right up here. Our steel is backed up, right? I got this operating. We have 8 warehouses full of steel. Each was 76,000. We've got a lot of steel. But when this starts running, this monster of a build, smelting all of these lines and all of this iron, this right here single-handedly destroys our power when this operates. It's not running right now, thankfully. And that's why we're not completely dead in the water with power. But if it starts running, either that or our build over here processing stone, brick, sand, and glass, when this starts operating, when any of our bigger builds start operating, we immediately just end up bottoming out with power. So what I've been doing is making sure we have all of the ingredients we need down here is to make, what are they called here? Uranium fuel cells. That's what they're called. I was going to call them a power cell, but my brain said, no, it's not a power cell. It's a fuel cell. That's right, uranium fuel cells. So I've been preparing the ingredients necessary to build a 16 reactor nuclear setup. And if I come in here to this blueprint and come here to this, you see it says 2.55 gigawatts of power. That means I'm going to need more than one. I'm actually going to need probably a couple of these, maybe even more than that. The amount of power that I need is becoming extensive. So I'm going to need multiple of these setups, and with multiple of these setups, we're going to be consuming a lot of the nuclear fuel cells and producing the spent ones that I'll be processing down there. But I'm not just going to make this for our main world. I'm planning on taking these and dropping them down in our outpost as well, because 2.55 gigawatts of power for an outpost means it won't even run all the time. And those blueprints are smart blueprints, so they are set up where they don't just constantly consume fuel. It runs, builds up a backlog of steam, and then waits until it gets low enough to run again. So it's not wasting your fuel. So it's okay to just take one of those and put it down somewhere where you're not going to be utilizing all of that power just yet. But what I have, like I said, is what I need in order to produce, to just drop that blueprint down and have them build it, minus the landfill. I don't have the landfill included in this. It's 13,000 landfill for that blueprint. Let's take a look. 13,000 landfill. I think rather than doing that, I will simply put it somewhere where there's land already. On the other planets. Here, it doesn't really matter. In Novice, I can drop landfill anywhere I want. I've been doing more landfill. I've got a large amount of it. You're seeing hundreds of thousands. If you add all this up together, landfill is not an issue here. But transporting it to another planet would definitely be an issue. That amount of it would take up a rocket or two or who knows what. So I'm not really going to bother with that. I just want to try and take advantage of the environment there and put it on land. Whoop, went too far. I just realized I'm out of our termite nanobots. 800 is a bit much. Hold on there. I'll carry 300 with me. But yes, let me take you around and show you a few of the things, such as the still build. We just fired at some meteors. We took them out. Oh, also, I'm completely forgetting some of the other stuff that I've done. Like I said, it's been a little while. You'll have to be patient with me here. But I set this up. We had trains coming in here with iron, train here with copper, and then we were mining a little bit of stone that was here, but the stone is gone. So I have to start using my builds that I made for sand, stone, brick, and glass, and our iron and copper right here. And so I just took this little setup and put it here and slightly augmented the input and output. I'm going to make this look prettier in a little bit. I had to move the copper train here, and I had a lot of backlog of copper in the chest that was waiting. So I had to wait for all that to unload first before I could move these train lines. But I definitely can now, and I'll look at doing that later. But it's really simple. Each train comes in and brings a single resource in, and the only one that we're using, or the only two that we're using all 4 belts on, are the iron and copper. So the iron and copper, the 4 belts head right over here and go into the main line, just like they always have, and keep everything fed. But the stone, brick, and the stone are only 2 lines, so I had to do a splitter merger setup that brings all of that down, equally uses from each belt, and turns into 2 lines for those two. Same thing for glass. We utilize 2 lines of glass, but we only utilize 1 line of sand, so I just took off of one side, and it does the same thing. This will evenly use each of the 4 inputs and make this belt that comes out. And that keeps our concrete flowing, which is quite important. We're using a lot of concrete for a lot of things. But that keeps this flowing for us right now, because I cannot make builds for all of these things and not have this running, right? So I need the resources that I make in the mall here in order to continue putting down these builds like I have. So I have to keep this fed temporarily. And then as we move away from utilizing these things, we can make more permanent builds like we have over here. Probably, actually, now that I'm looking at it, the next build is most likely going to be a circuits build. A whole lot of green circuits, even more red circuits and blue circuits, all made in another area out here somewhere. We'll figure that out. Maybe in this area. Try and utilize space as best as I can. I mean, honestly, I can just claim a larger area, build a wall here and there, and just take over more space, or start utilizing some of the space that I have down here. So it's not necessarily a need to cram things up, but I also don't want there to be massive amounts of space between each of my builds, because that requires me to, number one, it'll take my trains longer to get places, which slows down movement of resources, which is a huge waste. So that's really probably my number one reason that I don't want to do that. But also, it's more resources, more train lines, more belts if I spread things out everywhere, and more of the bricks and concrete that I'm going to be placing down everywhere to make my factory look fabulous. No, we're working on it. We're getting there. Yes, but I was going to show you in person the still build, because last time we left off, I don't believe I actually had it operating just yet. I didn't have the resources being fed into it. I had it all built, but it wasn't running. Of course, now it's not running either because it's backed up, but you can see what it looks like with everything on it, and it's beautiful. So we've got our output area, and I just did a 4 to 8 splitter that balances it, so each line gets an equal amount going to it, so these all fill up at the same time. I still only have 4 blue belts worth of steel. I say only. I have 4 blue belts worth of steel output over here. That's a lot. That's a lot for me right now. I don't need that much right now, but I have it available as I ramp up other builds. And I have an incredibly fast and balanced loader right here with, I don't even know, how does that, 8 times 76,000? That's a lot. A lot. That's what, 152,000 and then 4 of those rows. Yeah, we're getting just under 700,000 stored here. Just a little bit under that. That's crazy. But this is what it looks like with all of the belts backed up. We've got stuff going crazy. I've got to come in and do the bricks and concrete and make it look pretty and everything. But our balancer's all backed up. 16 to 16. And then each of these lines, this is the crazy part. These don't actually use a full blue belt's worth input because of the production modules that we have in them. They're only using 37, not the full 45. And they output more than a 45, more than a blue belt as well. So they're not actually using the full 37 either, which means that each one of these should never run out of iron ore. They should always be backed up, even if this thing is running at full speed, which is good. That means we're getting the most out of our ores up here. And it all comes down, feeds into each of these different smelters. We did move over our stone mining. Oh, what happened here? That's a good thing we came up here to look. I had a belt aimed the wrong direction. And that would have absolutely slowed this down. It wouldn't have stopped it because the train would have still have loaded from the other side, but it would load a little slower in this one compartment than the others. It would keep the train sitting here longer. That's not what I want at all. I want it moving and grooving at all times. Let's see. I had to tap this iron right over here, and I am going up and down because these Mark V mining drills, with their base productivity being 90%, they produce a lot of ore. They're also faster than normal, so they produce more with productivity and they're faster. So I had to go up with some lines. Oh, oops. Well, I'm glad I'm doing this. I'm finding mistakes everywhere. That'll definitely help when it starts getting that flowing through there. But I'm tapping all of this iron except for where it's overlapping with coal. I'll have to do some kind of sorting system for that if I even decide to tap that. I might just grab the coal itself and not mine that for a while. I have plenty of iron that is not mixed right over here. Millions upon millions of it, 85, 80, and 98 million iron sitting here. So we are not hurting on the iron, which is good. We also have plenty of copper sitting over here too. And down here, we're still tapping these. So resources are not an issue. It's power, being able to power our machines that are running when they're running, and being able to move them. The logistics and the powering of our factory are our current hampers, but we're working on that. We are definitely working on that. So I think what I would like to do is get these trees that I missed. Get that last one. There we go. Trees are the true enemy. And head back over here and look at how we're doing on building up our nuclear reactor parts. I'm pretty sure that I have every single thing being made. What's over here? What is this? A whole bunch of glass. Interesting. I'm going to change these to storage warehouses. And what that'll do is make them higher on the priority list. So if I need glass for something that the robots have to grab, they will take out of a storage box or a storage warehouse before they'll take out of a passive one. And since those were passives, I think that's why it's sitting over there for so long. Yeah, we may have the same issue up here where I may need to shape this corner a little bit with water fill to drive them more towards the center of the wall. We'll look at that. Maybe there's some improvements we can make. Well, not maybe. There are improvements we can make, but we'll see what they are as we're going. But yes, this right here, I want to know. So the only thing I'm waiting on are steam turbines, and they're definitely being made somewhere because this has been steadily going up. You'll see it goes storage, logistic storage will go up by 1 and it'll immediately go to on the way. It's just slow. Oh yeah, I know these are being made because I put the machine down. I'm silly. Listen at me. What are we waiting on the most? It would probably be better if I just put a second chest down and say grab all the same ingredients and just take it out of 2 different chests. Fill this up. But getting this down will help us when we start turning everything on. I have to keep an eye on that, especially right now. If we were to have a coronal mass ejection hit novice, it would probably break through the shield very quickly and end up just destroying everything. So when this is finished, I want to essentially take everything out of it. Wait a minute. I'm trying to think here. I want the bots to be able to have access to it, but I don't want to lose the what I'm requesting. If I just put a passive chest here and move it to the other one, the bots will just immediately move it back and it'll create a loop. Curious. If I simply tell this that it can't hold anything, no, they're going to try and deliver. Oh, wait. It didn't take my... Okay, hold on. We got to try this again. Mistakes were made. I need you to... yeah, that's why. Because when I copy this over, it opens it up. Maybe it's the buffer chest. The buffer warehouse might be the answer to my problem. Because I'm pretty sure you can request with a buffer chest, right? But then the bots can still take out of it. Yeah, so if I just change this to a buffer chest, I'm going to lose what's inside of it. This is tricky. Maybe I should have used a buffer chest from the beginning. But we're going to put down a warehouse. We're going to say dump my inventory in there, and we're just going to move everything here already. And we need to pick this one up so that it's not trying to fill that one as well. Now this one should fill up with what it needs, and then it will be available to the bot network, right? Is that how this works? I've never really messed with the buffer chest, to be honest with you. I don't normally do things that require that. So let's take a look. I'm going to come down here and we're going to drop this giant blueprint down for our very large nuclear reactor. Yeah, this monster. And just place it. I guess it doesn't really matter where it's at in relation to other builds. Look at this monster. It's so big. Okay. So now the question is, I do know I'm going to have to swap out these roboports are the Mark 1 in the blueprints, and I need them to be my upgraded roboports. There we go. That's the only change that has to be made to this, is to make those the better ones. Everything else will function just fine. I mean, honestly, also, you can use the regular roboports here if you really wanted to. You could. You don't have to. How do they have a little bit of electricity? Why is the bar a little bit red? There's no power down here yet. It's weird. I'm getting distracted though. You don't have to use the better robo ports. You can just use what it has. And I need the radar and robo port here to be powered. That way we have vision down here and we can see that the bots are actually going. The bots have access to this. They should because of this robo port. Oh, look at them go. Now the question is, are they taking out of that buffer chest? They sure are. So that will work perfectly. That's good. To be honest, like I said, I've never really utilized a buffer chest. I always use just requester and provider and active provider chest. Passive provider and active provider chest. I don't usually build things that require buffer chests. That's interesting to see. Look at the swarm go. Alright, but that's going to be it for today's episode. I hope that you are all caught back up and aware of what's going on and know the plans. And if you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to give the video a like. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, consider subscribing to my channel. And I will see you all next time.